and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Megha Sharma. Now, the ease of doing business 2.0 is what the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman mentioned while announcing the budget 2022. Right from reducing 25,000 compliances, repealing 1,500 laws and committing to the minimum government, maximum governance model, the Government of India is truly walking the talk when it comes to ease of doing business. In the next phase of the Golden Amrit Kal that was announced by the Finance Ministers, states have been made stakeholders to bring in investment. SEZs and startups and manufacturing plants have been given tax concessions. There has been a massive manufacturing push by way of investments to create employment and sustain high growth to make up for the setbacks in the last couple of years. The capital expenditure has also been stepped up. RBI-backed digital rupee using blockchain is going to be a massive boost as well. Not to mention the customs and the import duty reforms for steel and mobile allied items. Disinvestment is also high on government's agenda. Let's open up this discussion. Joining me on the broadcast, set of guests, Aditya Barlia, who is the chairperson of the CII Delhi and the co-promoter for APJ Satya and Swarna Group on the broadcast with me. You know, the ease of business 2.0, rightly put by the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman with regards to the capital investment that has come out, with regards to the financial push that has been put out by the government and its discretion part to step away and allow for private entities to take control.
Megha, I think this is an absolute wonderful step. When we look at the budget, we just don't see the numbers. We see the budget as an indication of how the government is thinking and how it plans to adjust a lot of laws and legislations as we go forward in the next year. We are seeing a couple of key trends which they have said clearly, trying to prime the COVID-19 recovery. Even in her speech, our finance minister mentioned that the government capital expenditure is more for priming rather than to crowd out private investment. We are seeing a very reform-minded government. The very fact that we are looking at a digital rupee that would come in the next year, the full focus on ease of doing business 2.0, I think this sends a very strong message that the government is still focused on development, is focused on industry, and we should see, apart from this budget, I suspect a couple of great announcements coming in the next few months.
There were also, you know, announcements that had been made by the finance minister with regards to disinvestment, and the process is only going to continue. It is a start with Air India being disinvested by the government entity from a private sector to from a public sector to private sector. Again, the IPO for LIC is going to be coming in a few months from now. How is the disinvestment process going to allow for further ease of business, ease of living in our country?
We have always seen that, you know, the government does governance best, and it should leave the running of companies to the private sector. Beyond just getting government funds, it also increases the competitiveness of India. The government has fantastic assets, it has fantastic companies, and this is a great market in which to IPO them. Once they get both domestic and foreign capital in, change the way they manage, give them the freedom to truly be exceptional companies, they have the possibility of not just reforming and leading the sectors in India, but becoming national champions for the rest of the world as well.
Sanjay Srivastav on the broadcast with me. Sanjay, what's interesting and exciting for the tech world, from the crypto world, is the digital currency that has been announced. It is going to be launched, implemented, backed by the RBI in 2023. What does it mean for the Aam Aadmi?
I think this particular move we have to see in the larger context where we are. I think the government is pushing very hard for digital as the underlying infrastructure which leads to the two elements which you talked of, real ease of doing business 2.0 and ease of living. So if this digital currency is launched, one of the most important things is that for a large number of retail investors, there is an inherent protection which is built in, because right now there was a lot of speculation which was going on in cryptocurrency and NFTs which were unregulated. So that is one good thing. The other key thing is that the government is recognizing that the blockchain and the other new technologies are now going to go mainstream. And the first important aspect has been that any of the virtual assets, digital assets have been for in order to have end-to-end tracking, you have 1% TDS and then the 30% tax gain
Okay.
charges.
We're going to take up that topic in another 20 minutes at 5:30 when we're specifically going to focus on cryptocurrency and digital assets and what are going to be the repercussions and impacts of it. Another related subject that is going to help in ease of doing business and potentially attract international market and economies towards India and perhaps even allow them to build manufacturing bases here is the fintech innovation. And there's specific mentions that have been made by the finance minister. 75 digital banking units by the scheduled commercial banks that are going to be converted into fintech regulated, fintech-enabled systems. There is going to be financial support that is going to be continued to promote use of payment platforms. If you could explain, Meenal Anand, with regards to the changes and the disruption which has already been created, and now when it comes to scheduled commercial banks, it is going to go deeper into the tier 2, tier 3 and the rural market as well.
So yes, so I think opening of these, converting everything and moving towards digitalization, I think is the most important takeaway that we can see in this budget today. There's been an inherent focus on digitalization and technology. Opening of banks, yes, it really enables the ease of doing business, as we have spoken about right now. It will allow more people to actually do business and to actually be part of then the economic system that we have in the economic sphere of our country. And I feel like, especially in the education space also, this is going to have a huge impact. The focus on digitalization and technology that has been provided by our finance minister in this budget. For example, even like the auction of the 5G spectrum in 2022 is going to give a huge boost to the education sector, as it will ensure internet connectivity across the country. Villages also now are going to be connected through a digital ecosystem with the massive optical fiber plan in villages under the BharatNet.
Okay.
And then
okay, all right. Those are all great points. Another interesting announcement made by the finance minister was about giving 200 lakh crores to state governments and let them decide the investment opportunities that are going to come their way, especially with regards to infrastructure, whether it's ports, railways, roadways, ropeways, airways, etc., etc. How does this entire plan fit into the ease of doing business stratagem that has been brought about by the central government? If Mr. Rawal could respond to this.
Thank you very much for giving the opportunity. Basically, the country has to go from the infrastructure way now. And this government is known for that. As she has told that last year we have constructed 25,000 kilometers road. This year also she has taken the target of the same distance. Actually, all these infrastructural expenses has to be done to bring the economy online. If they are not doing this, this economy will go into more deep. And already we are getting if you really see the fiscal deficit at 6.9%, and we are projecting GDP at 8 point and odd figure. And basically it is just neutralizing each other. So we are at par only. So this infrastructure, 2 lakh crore, whatever she is projecting, you have the numbers with you. Basically it is meant to be for the purpose of putting the economy on wheels, because economy runs on expenditures. The government expenditure has come to the market, and infrastructure is need of this country. We need airports, we need roads, we need bridges. All these has to be constructed, and for that, she is even now ready to give a 1 lakh crore loans to the state governments without charging any interest on that. Okay. So all these amounts has to come back, and even SEZ, she has come out with a new scheme on that. The states will be participating in that. So this infrastructure is a good idea. Only this is the way from where we can generate the employments, which is the basically generally we are going down, and from there the inflation can be controlled and the economy can come on the right point.
Okay. Gautam Mukherjee, since we are on track with regards to reducing government compliances, cutting down on the laws, there has been this massive change with regards to digitalization, a single system of clearing all sorts of queries for domestic as well as international entities wanting to set up manufacturing bases, services bases in our country. There are these humongous announcements that have been made. What does this reflect in terms of attracting especially foreign investment?
Well, it'll come in due course. Foreign investment has increased a lot, as we can see, both from our foreign exchange reserves and FDI numbers. And it will continue, but it won't come so much because of this ease of doing business. It is coming because of our market. It is a rare market that has these kind of opportunities, therefore they will come. The other thing that I really like about digital, and in my case, I saw the difference in the income tax department. It bypasses the Babu, it bypasses the income tax official. He can't hide behind his file, he can't lose a file, he can't harass you in 99 ways. Everything is on the net, everything is copied to all his bosses. So it's really, it makes an honest man out of basically a system that is designed to harass the common man.
Exactly, to find a solution for such a problem, I'll give an example, and Ankit, if you could get into the conversation over here. A very specific announcement with regards to corporate exits that would take about 2 years, 3 years for companies to get out of the system if they did not want to stay. And what has happened now is those compliances will be reduced. It will only take about 6 months, very, very specific time to step out of the corporate bureaucracy system, and this will save time. This will allow for this clean cut to happen, and that's what the industries, domestic and outsiders, were demanding for a long time.
Definitely, yes. I think 3 things which the government has done this time. One is starting of ease of doing business 2.0, where the real federalism is coming in. We are asking states to cooperate. The same way they have done it for SEZ side, they're coming up with a new legislation where again they say it will be in contrast with the state governments, because state governments were coming with their own policy. For an example, in Tesla is coming in, Gujarat, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, every government is after, state government is after them to establish the units in there. So that's going to come in, and then another 1 lakh, 2 lakh crore given to the state governments. Which will again help them to attract the investment in their respective states. So you're trying to create a federalism, you're trying to create a competition in a right spirit, and cutting down the bureaucracy at a different phases. I have been a chartered accountant from all my life, and I see there has been a drastic change in the last few years. And which always give us, when I talk to a client which is outside of India, it gives me a comfort to tell him, oh, don't worry, we'll get this done, and this date we'll get this done, and it does happen in that date.
Absolutely. Professor Dr. Yamini Agarwal, do you concur with this idea that has been shared about reducing compliances, cutting down on laws that are repetitive, that are redundant, and now another boost over here, allowing for companies that do not want to stay and wind up fast to give them that leeway, get out within 3 to 6 months instead of lingering on for 2 years and more?
Well, I think it's a very good move to provide for better compliances for people to do business more easily, because it supports the overall business environment. Also, it gives an opportunity for businesses to be able to function without any harassment or, be forced to give in to corruption that is there. Also, it does, add on to the values that the businesses can bring in by bringing about easy exits and entries into different spheres. What you do find in the budget is a strong impetus to the digital infrastructure, a strong impetus to one nation, one governance scheme, a strong impetus to accountability, transparency through the digital infrastructure that is being created. Also, what you do see is that there is a huge amount of investment in the infrastructure through Gati Shakti or the other
Absolutely.
mechanisms.
But but specifically, I had a quick question, and if Aditya could respond to me about this. Another point for ease of doing business, especially for the international markets over here, we talk about customs and import duties, especially when it comes to steel allied items, when it comes to mobile allied items, the cameras for the mobile phones. The custom duties have been exempted or reduced. Again, an impetus for foreign players to look into investment opportunities here?
Absolutely. If you really look at what India is trying to do is to say now, earlier it would say manufacture in India for India. Now we have to say manufacture in India for the world. We have a once in a decade chance to pick up the slack where now from where China has sort of gone off. And all of these efforts will allow foreign companies to come in and to establish higher value chain bases here. It sends a great message that, look, India is open for business. And, small things like, oh, I can't set up a huge factory because what will the customs tariffs be? Or, how will I get my goods in and out? Infrastructure plus policy, that combination is great.
Okay. Sanjay Srivastava, quickly then, MSMEs that have been given the focus point that they required, hospitality industry, that is going to be giving much impetus with the emergency line credit that has been announced of about 50,000 crores?
Yes, definitely, and it is a much needed support for all the contact or the service oriented industries, while a lot of growth which has come in and a resumption is led by manufacturing and some of the other services. But if you see hospitality, if you see MSME, if you see travel related services, there have been a real loss of job. And now I think a calibration between what was being done at the different unlock scheme, so that at least there is some capital or a work in progress money which is available to these MSMEs to really even resume business, because they had virtually come down to shut down only some of the biggest or the medium players who had the financial muscle to outweigh the losses at stake. So it is definitely a positive, and that goes back to, I think, one of the 4 key pillars which FM had talked about which was of inclusive development.
Okay.
So while manufacturing will give a huge GDP growth boost over the next few years.
And since we talk about GDP growth impetus, how can we leave defense and Atmanirbhar defense, Make in India defense being the strategic focal point for this defense budget as well? An increment capital procurement from 58% to 68%, 10% increment, and maximum of it has been allocated for domestic manufacturing. What does that entail? Vinod Raval, if you could respond.
She has said that 68% of defense research now will be done with Make in India, and the private players will be participating in that. And basically, I will take this as the main key figure of the whole budget, that we are now, and this is not a small figure. If you really see the 68% of defense, it's a huge number, and that basically we are coming to Make in India, and that's real Make in India we are thinking of. And the Make in India which we were thinking from beginning is basically in defense, and now they are come out that DRDO will be doing all this research with the domestic players, and the private parties will be participating with that Indian private players. So let's see which companies come forward in that, and how that comes out, because that will make the real difference. Because in that case, we will not be importing the arms from other countries, which takes us the huge foreign reserves. And that to save that, this move is really a wonderful move.
Okay.
And if you really see the whole budget, if you see if you leave the taxation aside, rest all things she has tried to done from the infrastructure style and from the defense angle, and the health and education has been touched upon.
Gautam Mukherjee, could there have been an inclusion within the defense budget made when regards to innovation and R&D that continues to be a point of paucity in our country at this time?
Well, defense and any other kind of R&D is not India's strong suit, mainly because the technical institutes like the IITs and so on were very theoretical, and as soon as people finished they went abroad. Now that is starting to change, and they are doing what the American universities do. They actually participate in business and industry. 25% of the defense ministry budget has been allocated to private players to do research alongside or on their own in a complementary manner. If you look at the orders that L&T has got, they run into thousands and thousands of crores. And that is because of efficiency. It also, I was talking of bypassing the bureaucrat. You're also doing something about the tardiness and the stick in the mudness of defense manufacturing solely and wholly in the hands of the government. So now there is, I see a future in which you could make a Tejas a week instead of one in about 6 months.
Okay,
so
all right, looking ahead, bright future, Make in India defense.
Here, Megha, the last point I want to make here is the enormous potential for export. When we buy something, it costs billions. Now the shoe's on the other foot. In due course, we've started with the Philippines. Vietnam is interested in the BrahMos, but that's only, and they've already taken things like bulletproof vests and so on, small potatoes. Now the big potatoes will come.
Absolutely. Obviously, you mentioned about the BrahMos deal, the biggest defense export that India has done in the first ever in our country. Quickly shifting focus to the PLI schemes and specifically the telecom sector. Now, such an announcement also made affordable broadband proliferation, where 5% of the connections are going to be helping in promoting R&D, commercialization of tech, and villages, tier 2, tier 3 cities are going to be provided with this high-tech technology. Ankit, how will PLI schemes help in spreading 5G much faster into the remotest part of our country?
I think the PLI case has been successful. The government has been trying it from last 1.5 years. 14 sectors have already been added, and today itself some more, and with solar panel being added, there has been always a disbursement. So you're actually incentivizing the businessmen to actually manufacture low-cost product within India. And when that's going to happen, and it's especially in the telecom side, this will push the telecom players to create that infrastructure into tier 2, tier 3 and the villages, because then it becomes affordable for them to install it and give them affordable services which will come back to them. So I see a great potential on this PLI scheme which is coming on the telecom side of business, and it has been there in terms of the manufacturing from last 1.5 years, and the government's second level of push will actually increase the connectivity across the board.
Sanjay, your comments with regards to PLI and telecom, the 5G, and there are international players that are also vying for this space.
Sure. So I think this can be one of the big accelerators in two ways. Those 14 PLIs, in fact, FM talked of, have themselves got a potential to generate almost 6 million jobs. And the second thing is almost with this 5G and the optic fiber rollout, digital almost becomes as a common denominator of infrastructure on which all the new services can build up. Then whether we are looking at financial inclusion, we are looking at what is being done with the post offices, we are looking at fintech, or we are looking at brand new services launch, all of them start riding it. So I think this 5G and digital OFC infrastructure on one side, and aerospace, defense, and the 14 sector PLIs in full flow, these can be two joint levers which accelerate both the GDP growth and the employment.
All right, thank you gentlemen and ladies for joining me on this special broadcast. It's so beautiful how it gets all interlinked and interconnected, whether it's the PLI schemes, the ease of doing business, digitalization, industrialization of our country, attracting foreign investment. It all boils down to building the 5 trillion economy that has been the dream of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We'll take a short break, come right back. We are discussing cryptocurrency and these regulatory authorities that are going to come up after the first big announcement that has been made by the Finance Minister, 30% tax on virtual assets.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.